And looks like we've lost Wajahat. So as soon as he comes back, we'll get started.
I think he's here. He just switched off his video.
Yeah, I'm here. Just give me a second.
Yeah.
I think he's here. He just switched off his video.
Yeah, I'm here. Let's go.
Ready?
Yep.
बस आप चले जाएं, भी चले जाएं.
We're live from the Indiana Senate. Let's go.
इसकी टीवी की आवाज नहीं आ रही?
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम शुरू करते हैं. थोड़ा सा इंट्रोडक्शन मैं देता हूं जब तक हम बाकी लाइव जा रहे हैं. मेरे दोस्त हुसैन नदीम मेरे साथ हैं, अली खालिद प्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं. हम इस वक्त इंडियाना स्टेट सेनेट को ब्रीफिंग दे रहे हैं पाकिस्तान में ह्यूमन राइट्स और ट्रांस नेशनल रिप्रेशन पे. ये बराह रास्त है. इंडियाना 50 रियासतों में से एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट, बहुत अहम रियासत है. वॉच कि हम इधर से क्या कहते हैं और क्यों कहते हैं, इस पे भी बात करेंगे. We'll talk soon. Stand by.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning to everybody. Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you all for being here. This seminar is brought to you by here at the Indiana State Capitol in the beautiful city of Indianapolis by the Pakistani American community. My name is Ahmad Murad. I am an accountant, a finance executive. I've worked in the pharmaceutical and animal health industry in Indiana for the last 10 years. And I will be your moderator today, and I am part of the group that organized this event for you. We have with us Sobia Shakil. She's an educator, an entrepreneur, academic with academic roots in psychology and health informatics. She is the president of the Indiana chapter of PACPAC, which is the Pakistan American Public Affairs Committee. Thank you, Sobia, for your leadership in making this event happen. Sobia's right hand in arranging this event is her husband, Dr. Shakil Ahmed. Shakil is a board-certified physician with a focus on critical care medicine. He actively participates in multiple charitable and advocacy initiatives for democracy and civil liberties. Our final team member, who unfortunately could not be here with us today, is Shakil Khan. He is an IT professional, holds a master's degree in computer software engineering, and he has served this community, the greater Indianapolis Pakistani American community, in multiple ways over the years. Our subject today, at its core, is democracy and the rule of law. Pakistan may seem like a faraway land, and what happens there may feel not so relevant for us here in the United States. Why should Indiana's lawmakers be interested in what is happening in Pakistan? Bankers, entrepreneurs, IT professionals, academics, doctors. Did I say doctors? Yeah, we've got a lot of doctors. And secondly, because all of us believe in democracy and fundamental human rights, civil liberties, they are God-given universal rights that every human being is entitled to anywhere in the world. Those rights of the Pakistani people have been systematically and brutally stripped away over the past nearly 3 years since the democratically elected government of former Prime Minister Imran Khan was overthrown in April 2022. Since then, Pakistan has seen a stolen election, the weaponization of the criminal justice system against political opposition, a massacre of pro-democracy protesters in the capital, Islamabad, and a complete takeover of the judiciary by a military-backed puppet regime with army generals, including the Chief of Army Staff, General Asim Munir, holding absolute power behind the scenes. We would like to thank Representatives Bo Baird and Becky Cash, Senator Fadi Qadura, and all other representatives and senators who engaged with us over the past several weeks and encouraged and supported us to hold this seminar here today. We have two amazing speakers with us via Zoom. They will be making their presentation to educate us in more detail about what transpired and hopefully shed some light on what state legislators may be able to do in supporting their Pakistani American constituents here in Indiana. We are delighted to have Wajahat Saeed Khan and Hussein Nadim with us. Thank you both, Wajahat and Hussein, for joining us. We will start with Hussein. We will now invite Professor Hussein Nadim. He's a professorial lecturer at the Elliott School of International Affairs at the George Washington University. He works at the intersection of artificial intelligence, policy, and national security. He's a Maurice R. Greenberg World Fellow at Yale University and is credited with pioneering the use of data analytics and digital technologies to transform the policy sector with evidence-based decisions that serve the public good. Over to you, Hussein.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Parkpack. It's a pleasure to be here at the Indiana State Assembly, virtually though, and always a pleasure to share the forum with my friend Wajahat. So I'm going to take the next 10 minutes to do two things. One, I want to use a slightly theoretical lens to explain what is happening in Pakistan at the moment. And the second thing I want to do is to explain what the State Assembly can do in support of democracy and human rights in Pakistan. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. So I'll just start off the first thing. So the best way to describe Pakistan, the situation over there, is that it is in a quantum state. It is as close to becoming a North Korea as it is to becoming a truly independent and democratic country. You can think of it as this is, Pakistan's 1776 moment. And the people, through their vote on 8th February of 2024, last year elections, made it very known that they wanted democracy. There has been a huge debate in the Muslim world and in countries like Pakistan whether, Islam is, compatible with democracy or not, or whether there should be another system for the Muslim world. But I think Pakistan represents a very, very good case study where 240 million people have with one voice come out and put it out on record that we want democracy as a viable political and governance model for the country. Unfortunately, as we speak right now, we have a military rule in the country. The elections from the last year were completely rigged. The party that won, the PTI, the Imran Khan's political party, there was not only just pre-poll rigging, but even despite the fact that they won, they were never really allowed to make the government. And what we have right now is a military-led regime of the two political dynasties in Pakistan ruling the country with brute force and unprecedented level of threats and violence in the country. Now, where does the United States fit into all this? Now, the interesting part is that this has a lot to do with the United States foreign policy towards Pakistan, and especially the Biden era foreign policy, not just in the last 4 years, but since President Biden was the Vice President Biden during the Obama years. Much of this has to do in Pakistan's situation with the US foreign policy. For decades, the political and military elite in Pakistan has continued to prop up this fear to the US government over, during the Cold War, it was about the Soviets coming into Afghanistan and Pakistan. Later, after the 9/11, it became about the Islamist terrorism and also about the nuclear threat. And for decades, the consecutive US governments have come out of under this fear, they have continued to, sponsor and endorse very, very corrupt political and military regimes in Pakistan. There have been about 4 military coups in Pakistan's history, and the period of democracy has never really existed in the country. The current mess that we speak of is also part and parcel related to that. The US government, for instance, in the last 15, 20 years have funded about good over $10, $15 billion in Pakistan. The US aid especially, and part of my academic work and the book that I wrote is related to the US aid funding to Pakistan, which amounts to over $8 billion. And we have seen projects as big as $840 million projects of building schools in Pakistan, which there is no evidence that any of it was even built. Then we have projects like $20 million in the Sesame Street project, Sesame Street cartoons project. Then we have a couple of other projects, about $60 million in funding media in Pakistan. What the US has, for all its good or bad reasons, the US government has continued to fund a very, very specific political and military elite and its corruption in Pakistan, and also its hold on the Pakistan's governance and political structures at the expense of democracy and the will of the people. Now, this situation has persisted for too long, and now it is at a boiling plate where the governance structures have practically collapsed. The economy is broken, yet we have a country of 240 million people with a nuclear arsenal which is constantly growing. So, in this situation, it is unprecedented that the last Biden regime in the 4 years funded and sponsored a regime in Pakistan that now looks more like North Korea. And growingly, it is becoming more part of the Chinese orbit than anything else, which goes counter to the interest of the U.S. national interest and also against the interest of Pakistan. So, what can the Indiana state representatives do for Pakistan? I'm going to spend 2 minutes on that. And straightforward, since it is the US taxpayers' money that we're talking about that has undermined democracies in countries like Pakistan, funded their already rich elite and are already very corrupt governance structures. The first thing I think the state assembly over here should do is write a letter to President Trump, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Defense, the director of CIA to reverse Biden era's policies in Pakistan and work for the restoration of democracy and freedom of Imran Khan. That is a very good way to start where you can build confidence back in the public. Now, the second, I think, and a couple of other things that can be done is use the platform to pass a resolution for the support of democracy in Pakistan. What happens in the United States at forums like these are very much important for countries like Pakistan that rely on the foreign aid and the support of the United States to endorse and continue their hold on power. So I think these two steps would go a long way. And I will, rest of my time, I will yield to Wajahat and listen to what he has to say. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Hussein. It's always a tough act to follow you. I'll let Emmer define how much time I have and the way forward. Emmer, should I begin? You're mute.
Sorry, before we get to you, Wajahat, thank you very much, Hussein, for your presentation. Before we get to Wajahat, we have Representative Yoakum here who's joined us, and we would like to invite him to say a few words. Please.
Did you use that? You talk.
Test 1, 2, 3. First of all, I want to say welcome to Indiana. I don't know how familiar you are with Indiana, great state, very open to you all from Pakistan. Welcome you here, hopefully in the future, increased relations with you all. I am new. My fellow legislators here know a lot more than I do, and Say can probably fill you in a lot more. But I want to say thank you for coming to Indiana. Great state, great future. We are open to new investments. We're one of the greatest states, I believe, in the United States as far as for pro-business, pro-growth. And we welcome innovative people and innovative business that come here to Indiana to create new opportunities for all. But we want to say welcome to Indiana, and hopefully I can get to know you all more in the future. We're all getting ready to go to our caucus at 12:30, so our time is short. But I just want to say welcome to Indiana, and anything I can do for you, please let me know. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. We will move on with the rest of our program. I would like to introduce our next speaker. Our second speaker is Wajahat Saeed Khan. Wajahat is an Emmy-nominated journalist and author. He reports on Indo-Pacific security with a focus on South Asia. He is an adjunct professor at New York University's Center of Global Affairs and a graduate of the Columbia University School of Journalism and the University of Michigan. He is Pakistan's only Shorenstein Fellow from Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government. Wajahat, thank you very much for being with us. Over to you.
Thanks, Emmer. Thanks, Hussein, and thank you, Congressman, and women for allowing me to do this. My name is Wajahat Saeed Khan. I am very excited about making this presentation to the representatives of the great state of Indiana, home of the Hoosiers, As a Michigan Wolverine, I've attended many games in Bloomington as a younger man, and I cherish those memories from your great state. I've been reporting on conflict and politics in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and India, three countries I've lived in and reported from, and still have family and friends in for the last 2.5 decades. Hussein, my dear friend here, has described that Pakistan is in a quantum phase. Hussein is way more sophisticated than I am. I'm no academic, just a simple journalist, and my take is simpler as well. Pakistan is in the middle of what I like to call a polycrisis. That means it's going through a multiple crisis in its security sector, its economic sector, its climate sector, and most critically, in its legal, democratic, and human sectors. The steady attrition of democratic rights specifically bother me, as journalistic freedoms over the last 2 decades have seen thousands killed in my country, including dozens of fellow journalists. My country, sadly, home to some of the world's bravest journalists, has also been a top 10 A-lister in the Committee to Protect Journalists' Most Dangerous Countries list from 2014 till this very moment. The only other South Asian country that gives us a run for our money when it comes to killing journalists is Afghanistan. That's the indices that we are challenged by. The pace has picked up, especially over the last few years, and has led to this very difficult moment for me as well. I cannot say this openly in a forum in Pakistan. Those forums are not available anymore, are shut down. In fact, I can't be in Pakistan. I've been hounded out of my country, a country I was born in, and a country I've reported widely for and from. I was hounded out of my job, eventually my home, my city. My passport has been blocked. My national ID card has been canceled. My properties have been seized. Even my bank accounts have been frozen. I'm not alone. I'm not alone as being this prisoner outside my country, because the way Pakistan's military, especially the current dispensation of leadership in this military and this current dispensation of military-backed leaders who call themselves democratic, have treated their best and brightest. I've made this case. It's a difficult case, but I've made this case with a heavy heart to the US Congress just last month, and I'm making a case again for targeted sanctions, not sanctions that hurt 250 million people of Pakistan, many of whom starve and struggle under the poverty line. But those are the very top of this country's Praetorian military-backed leadership. As this great Congress of this great state starts its new term under this new administration in Washington, you all must be aware that you all have a critical part to play for many of the 1.2 million Pakistani Americans in your constituencies who are an active part of this diaspora. Friends like Emir, for example, who are leaders, were doing their best here, but they don't have any counterparts back home. And back home is essential because it is the promise and potential of those people who keep people like us going here. See, awareness is power for you. This Congress should be aware that America's lack of action around repression, such as blatant election rigging, mass arrests, internet shutdowns, abductions, and assassinations of journalists and civil rights leaders, excuse me, and the incarceration of leaders like Imran Khan, but not limited to Imran Khan, has been interpreted by the Pakistani military regime as a green light from Washington and even a state like Indiana. This lack of action broadly endangers not just Pakistanis here, but also the friends, the relatives, the loved ones, the businesses, and the freedoms of the 1.2 million Pakistani Americans through what is now called officially by the State Department and even the FBI as transnational repression. This wave of repression runs from the boonies of Pakistan, from the boondocks of a place like Balochistan, where I'm from, to right here in New York City, where friends and family and colleagues and even myself have been threatened. Now, whether intended or not, and I know that this legislature has a little to do with the foreign policy mechanisms of, I don't know, the Reagan administration or the Bush administration or even the Biden and the Trump administrations. But whether intended or not, a lack of any consequence for Pakistan, specifically in this moment, on this unprecedented and well-documented human rights crisis for the past 2 years, has incentivized the regime back home to brutally crack down pretty much every day. The greatest example we have was last November, November 26th, 2024, as the college football season was wrapping up. And we had great hopes from Michigan and even greater hopes from Indiana. Students, lawyers, activists, and even women and children were demanding justice and freedom on the streets of northern Pakistan in its capital. And yet, many of them were gunned down in broad daylight and then in the dark of the night when the whole capital's lights were turned off, the country's internet was turned off. One US publication, at least one, called it a premeditated massacre by Pakistan's security forces. So today, the people of Pakistan, people like me, people like Hussein, people like Emma, our counterparts back home, our loved ones, our colleagues, our friends, they don't have the freedom to anything. They don't have the freedom to vote, the freedom to assemble, the freedom to report, the freedom to meet even their missing relatives who have been abducted over the last decade and a half. At least 5,000 to 7,000 activists, lawyers, general civil society advocates have gone missing from my home province of Balochistan. I could keep on peeling this onion. I could keep on explaining to you, but I don't want to get too much inside baseball. The broad strokes is simple. Many an American administration has used and relied on the Pakistani military as a partner to get its job done via proxy by that military. Now, that might be fine. The military may be a partner, and someone like me or Hussein couldn't be. But I must remind you that this military is not a reliable partner. This military has led to a contradictory policy in Afghanistan, where comedians in New York City now joke that after a $2 trillion and a 2-decade-long war, the Americans were forced to replace the Taliban with the Taliban. This military has given you Osama bin Laden hiding in its very own garrisons. This military has given you has taken what President Donald Trump claims is $33 billion in the last decade and a half and given you nothing but lies and deceit. Not my words, but the American president's. Now, what can you do? You can do what you do best. You can legislate, you can ask questions, you can force Washington to think and rethink its stand. This is a critical moment because Washington is right now currently in a flux. The president's policies are being devised in real time as we speak. We know he's concentrated on Ukraine in this first phase, in this first month in power. And we know that Afghanistan is also in his sights and comes next. This is a very good chance for members of his party specifically, but also the Indiana state legislature broadly, to make Washington take note of the critical issue of transnational repression, which is how the rights of Pakistani Americans here are being eroded and attritioned, specifically by the military regime there, and what the only thing that can effectively be done about battling transnational repression from this great legislature is to get the administration and the other national security agencies of this administration involved in effective investigations, specifically with the purpose of pointing down and perhaps even sanctioning those who are behind it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wajahat, for your words. Very insightful as usual. So thank you. We have some of our esteemed representatives here who are joining us, and we would like to give them the stage to share their thoughts and views. I see Representative Becky Cash is back there. I know she has a 12:30 caucus. So I'm going to let her go first before I invite Representative Bo Baird up. Becky.
He has caucus too.
Oh, he has caucus too? Okay.
Yes. 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 Hello, everybody. I'm going to try to talk loud enough to drown them out. And I have 6 children, so I know how to talk loud. So thank you so much for coming out here today. I hope this will not be the first time that you come or the last time that you come. You're welcome here anytime. This is your state house. And as I was just sharing back there, if any of you have high school age students, we have a PAGE program. And so they can actually come and spend a day here at the State House. They'll actually be with peers their own age. They'll get to tour. They'll get to learn about the legislative process. So make sure you talk with your legislator about that, and they'll connect you with how to do that. So thankfully, this isn't the first time that I have spent time with the Pakistani American community. So I know Fahim and his wife very well. I represent an area that many of your community live within, and I've just been really blessed to get to know them in their own home and then come out here. Sadly, I think it was in December when the memorial service took place. So I did make some notes, and if you'll indulge me, I will just read those things. So I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to everyone involved in organizing this seminar and for providing valuable insights on the issues that deeply resonate with the Pakistani American Hoosiers. Over the years, I have had the privilege of getting to know many community members and professionals from the Pakistani American community here in Central Indiana, who make significant contributions to our great state as members of the community and professionals. In addition, over the last year, I have personally gotten to know some beautiful families in our area, and I know that the values that you hold are in line with the values that my family holds. Like everyone here, I am a staunch believer in the principles of democracy and the rule of law. The fundamental freedoms enshrined in our Bill of Rights should be as accessible. Should be as accessible to the people of Pakistan as they are to Americans. Myself, my family, and many of my colleagues condemn any effort to strip these fundamental freedoms away from the people of Pakistan. The people of Pakistan must be able to choose their leaders freely. There are too many credible reports of election fraud, egregious human rights abuses, and alarming democratic decline to be ignored in Pakistan. I was present when a group of Pakistan Americans, Hoosiers, gathered on the south lawn of the Capitol on a bitterly cold December. Some of you were out there. It was like 5 degrees outside, maybe even lower than that, to protest the tragic massacres that were taking place in Pakistan, and from what I understand are still taking place. When pro-democracy demonstrations were met with violence, including live ammunition resulting in numerous deaths and injuries. I firmly believe in the right to peaceful protest and freedom of expression. The emotions of pain and frustration among those gathered on that cold morning were palpable, and my heartfelt condolences go out to those who lost loved ones. Imran Khan, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, who I understand is still in prison, along with many of his party leaders and members, are currently political prisoners in the Pakistani jails. Both the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention and Amnesty International have determined that his detention is unjust and politically motivated. Several US lawmakers, including Congressman Joe Wilson of South Carolina and Congressman August Fugger of Texas, have called for his release. I stand with them in advocating for the release and the restoration of democracy in Pakistan. I'll continue to support you guys in any way that I can, and I look forward to continuing to get to know your community. And I just feel very blessed to have the Pakistani American community within my House District 25 in Brownsburg, Whitestown, Zionsville, and parts of Lebanon. And please continue to be here at the State House and be a presence in anything I can do for you. And I know that Representative Bo Baird is going to speak to you also, and him and his father have been incredible supporters of yours. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Representative Cash. I will invite, without further ado, to Representative Gobert. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. I'm excited to see you all here. I spoke with your group probably just a few months ago, and I know the question came up, how can you become more involved? And that's to have your voice heard. And this is the first step in making sure that your voice is heard. I was happy to help facilitate and provide the information on how you can organize this. Just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I'm not sure I'm as loud as Becky was, but I'm going to try. But my background, I do have a Purdue University undergraduate degree in financial consulting. I went on to receive a master's in business management from Tilburg University. And I think I saw Harvard in your background of your screen down there. I also have a master's in finance from Harvard University. But I say all that, probably what's most important to you all today is to know part of my background is I had an uncle that was Pakistani American. And I think everybody was shocked when I shared that before, but that's why this is near and dear to my heart. This is a fight for freedom. This is a fight for democracy. I'm glad to see you guys are here. I'm glad to see you voicing your voices and making sure that everyone hears this message, because we have to continue to fight for freedom and democracy. Oh, as Representative Cash said, my father is Congressman Jim Barrett. He serves on Foreign Affairs. He is very aware of this and sympathetic to the issue, and nothing is more important to him than fighting for freedom and democracy. So with that, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. We also have with us Senator Fadi Qadura, who's a longtime friend of the Pakistani community here in Indiana. Senator, please say a few words.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the People's House. Can you hear me? Welcome to the People's House. My name is Fadi. I'm originally from Palestine, and frequently people confuse me to be from Pakistan. And I tell them I'm honored to be an honorary Pakistani citizen. So I feel at home, so I appreciate it. The second thing I would say when I was invited to this meeting today, I remember when we were in the Zoom call, I jokingly said, I said, I will not show up unless you have some good Pakistani food. Where's the samosas and where's the biryani and all of that stuff? And I forgot that today actually is Ramadan. So, you know, we'll hold you accountable for better food for next time. Well, welcome to the People's House, to the state of Indiana. Again, my name is Fad and I serve in the Indiana State Senate. Honored to serve our community. Today's meeting is extremely important because the idea and the issue of democracy is a sacred idea that protects humanity, whether it is in the United States or in Pakistan. Wherever we go, every citizen needs to be protected under the law and treated as an equal citizen, not under military rule. And what we've witnessing in Pakistan is the erosion of democracy through the actions of the military. And I will personally oppose these the same way that I would oppose it if it was happening in the United States, where the role of the legislative body and free elections and protecting people from the oppression of being jailed for speaking their mind and representing their parties and their people, and for the voters to be able to speak their minds. So I commend you for taking the initiative to educate legislators in the state of Indiana. And I urge you to continue to work with your federal representatives, because we know that foreign policy is heavily influenced by the United States Congress and by the office of the President of the United States. So this is your People's House. We look forward to learning from you, to working with you, to standing with you. And I'm hopeful that we will be able to make policy changes on a national level to bring peace, prosperity, and democracy to every zip code in the United States and to every nation across the globe. So thank you. May God bless you. And I wish you a very meaningful Ramadan, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Inshallah. Wa alaikum assalam.
Thank you very much, Senator Qadura. We have one last speaker here. Mr. Richard Bagsby is here with us. If you would like to come up and say a few words, please.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? I have 8 children, so I know how to get my message across. My name is Richard Bagsby. I'm here with my wife, Sarah Bagsby. We have been fighting for the freedoms of people in Indiana for about 4 years now. I was a candidate, still am a candidate right now. What the 2 guests were talking about is near and dear to my heart. When you have a rogue government and rogue elected officials, the people suffer, no matter where it is across this great country or in other countries as well. But because of the resiliency of people like us who's willing to stand up and fight the machine, fight those who wish to have lordship over us, I believe the enemy will never conquer us, and we will continue to be conquerors. Like I said, I appreciate you having me, having my wife as well. I'm a dear friend to Becky Cash, and God willing, by this time next year, I will be able to not only fight for your community, but also the communities back home, and also be an advocate for the freedoms all across this world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. We have a number of members of the community here who have joined us. Thank you, each and every one of you, for being here. It is really, really very important and very heartening to see how many of you turned up. This issue of democracy, rule of law, and fundamental rights in Pakistan is very near and dear to our hearts. And it is absolutely incredible to see you all here. We have time for some questions. If anybody has any questions for our speakers, please go ahead and ask those questions now. We are going to I'm going to have to repeat your questions because we have, as you know, used up the microphone that we had to turn up the volume here a little bit. So if anybody has any questions, please. Great question. Thank you. So the question, guys, was since Prime Minister Imran Khan's arrest, has there been a rise in attacks by TTP or Balochistan separatists, and how has that affected life in Pakistan? Wajahat, would you like to take that one?
Sure, unless Hussein wants to answer it as well. Yes, there has been to use Hussein's term, a quantum leap in terms of the security problems in Pakistan. Firstly, Pakistan has at least 2.5, as I like to call them, insurgencies brewing. In the largest province, in Balochistan, there is a separatist insurgency run by Baloch insurgents, which is now officially the longest running insurgency in Pakistan's history. It started in the mid-2000s. And in fact, just as we were preparing for this briefing, there has been another attack, a suicide attack, bang in the middle of Balochistan, which is rare because that hasn't been their modus operandi. The fact that Baloch insurgent groups are now deploying suicide bombers, but even more importantly, are now recruiting women from Pakistan's urban educated classes, makes this a strange insurgency even for the region. Insurgents, whether in Afghanistan or India, Bangladesh or Pakistan or Sri Lanka, insurgents usually come from either very religiously or very poverty-stricken elements of society. These are middle-class, educated, university-going recruits who are now joining what has increasingly become an educated, middle-class, student-driven and middle-class-driven insurgency in Balochistan. But just a few hundred miles northwards, there's another insurgency brewing, which is directly correlated to Khan's departure. Now, Mr. Khan was right on many things, wrong on a few, to be fair, but right on many things. Perhaps the most correct prophecy he made, and he's been saying this for almost 2 decades, is that there was no military solution to Afghanistan. Now, he said this at a time when Bush was in power. He said it when Obama was in power. He said it when Trump 1.0 was in power. He said it during the Biden administration. Effectively, Mr. Khan's soothsaying that this insurgency will only be resolved politically was taken to task by the previous administration and the one before that. And as history has proven us correctly, it did take only political solutions to get the US out of Afghanistan. However, the other claims that Mr. Khan made, the other warnings that he gave were not heeded to. Pakistan's national security elite have not engaged in meaningful dialogue or have not had a clear kinetic plan of action against militant elements related to the Taliban. Today, there are approximately 6,000 to 8,000 heavily armed, many of them armed with NATO weapons left behind by the US. Another aspect Mr. Khan had warned about regarding the pullout. And they have merged with other elements as well. There are at least 30 different freelance groups dominated by the TTP. And then the casualties, the tolls, the incidents, which have seen a triple-digit rise, not double, triple-digit rise since Mr. Khan left office, making just this last month, February, one of the darkest months in Pakistan's last decade in the war against terror, with record military and record citizens killed killed by terrorist elements in increasing. So increasing fatalities is one thing. But then most importantly, as I said, there's 2.5 insurgencies brewing. The half insurgency is ISIS. ISIS's Middle Eastern chapter was mostly shut down by local and American forces, but many of them were allowed to evolve in this neck of the woods. And ISIS has its own plans currently, attacking both elements in Afghanistan and, as we recently saw, in Akora Khatak in Pakistan, where they attacked a man who was allegedly the rector, the dean of the University of Jihad, the biggest madrasa in Pakistan. I could go on, but be assured, there's a very simple correlation between instability and the rise of terrorism. Khan's removal has triggered a lack of trust in the populations in the border areas for the military. Now, we know if anybody in this Congress, any one of your friends or loved ones has ever served in uniform, chances are they've been deployed to Afghanistan or Iraq in the last decade and a half. You know that you cannot fight an insurgency or you cannot conduct counter-terror operations without people on the ground supporting you. Ironically, the Pakistan army has little support from Pakistanis currently. That's why it finds itself embroiled in an insurgency which is now the longest in its history as well as the deadliest, because its people hate it, its people distrust it, its people fear it. And as far as counterinsurgency doctrine is concerned, that will continue till the army wins their trust.
Thank you. Thank you, Wajahat. Hussein, would you like to add some comments to that question?
Wajahat, I think, has comprehensively explained the entire thing. Just one add on top. What we are seeing right now is not the state undergoing collapse. The state has already collapsed. We're seeing the symptoms of these collapse coming out. So the state that has declared war on its own people, be it in Balochistan, be it in Waziristan, be it in Punjab, what we're seeing and witnessing right now, the increase in growth, is the exact same growth in terrorism or insurgency that we witnessed during General Musharraf's era. And despite the fact that after that era there was some weak democracy or the military interventions in democracy, we started seeing the slide of these attacks. But now, because we're back again into the military rule, the ecosystem is entirely based on centralized power and structure. What we're witnessing again, and we will continue to witness this, is a complete deterioration of the state writ in two provinces, which is Balochistan and KP, and parts of Sindh and Punjab are also practically out of the state right now. So we'll see an increasing trend towards this.
Thank you. Yes, unfortunate truth. Any other questions from the audience? All right. Sounds like it looks like we don't have any questions. Any other questions? So we will wrap up with our thanks again to Representative Bo Baird, Representative Becky Cash, Senator Fadi Qudura, Richard, all of our organizers who worked so hard to make this happen, and to our speakers, Wajahat Saeed Khan and Professor Hussein Nadim, and to each and every one of you who came to participate and to listen to their presentations. With that, we'll sign off. Thank you very much.
Thank you to everyone in the Hoosier States. Thanks, Emma, for doing this. Thanks, Hussein. Always fun to debate this with you. Thank you. Thank you. But I must say this for the record as a Midwesterner, go blue to all of you Hoosiers. Take care.
We'll argue about that another time. Thank you. Goodbye.
And that's a very democratic argument to have. You take care. Bye. All right. तो ये था मेरा ongoing और आप कह सकते हैं तसलसल में जो आजकल हम कर रहे हैं तसलसल में जो मैं हुसैन नदीम मलिका समदानी मुईद पीरज़ादा, there's so many of us, हम रोज अक्सर आप देखते होंगे हम रोज ये ट्राई कर रहे हैं कि अलग अलग तरीकों से अलग अलग ऑडियंसेस के लिए अलग अलग फोरम्स पे आपके लिए आवाज उठाते रहें, और सिर्फ आपके लिए नहीं, अपने लिए भी। हम खुद, हमारी इतनी बहुत चीज़ें इन स्टेक हैं। अब अगर मैं फिर से आपको एक मिसाल देता चलूं, हुसैन नदीम नर्व एनालिटिक्स के फाउंडर हैं। ज़बरदस्त कंपनी है, काम कर रही है, दबा के काम कर रही है, मगर उस जैसा जो शख्स है वो फिर भी वक्त निकालता है। पिछले हफ्ता 10 दिन पहले एक ज़बरदस्त 2 दिन लंबी इधर एक राउंड टेबल कॉन्फ्रेंस हुई। बहुत सारे इधर लीडर्स आए हुए थे कम्युनिटी के, कासिम सूरी साहब पीटीआई के आए हुए थे, और बहुत सारे लोग आए हुए थे। बैरिस्टर एहतशाम आए हुए थे, मुईद पीरज़ादा उनकी बेगम आई हुई थी, मलिका समदानी आई हुई थी, ऑफ कोर्स खुद हुसैन मॉडरेट कर रहे थे। ये ऑलमोस्ट ऑन अ वीकली 10-day बेसिस कहीं ना कहीं ये इंसर्जेंसी भी चल रही है, मगर ये सियासी इंसर्जेंसी है। हम बम नहीं फाड़ रहे, हम कुछ और कर रहे हैं। हम या तो एक दूसरे को एंगेज कर रहे हैं या इधर की ऑडियंसेस को एंगेज कर रहे हैं, और ये बड़ा अहम है। और इसका आज वाकई बता दूं कि क्यों हो रहा है। हमारा बहुत सारे लोग मजाक उड़ाते हैं कि तुम क्यों कर रहे हो। देखें, मैंने इधर कॉलेज भी किया 90s 2000s में, 2010-11 में ग्रेड स्कूल भी किया, और 2019-20 में एक और ग्रेजुएट स्कूल किया। 3 बार मैं अमेरिका आके पढ़ा, 3 बार मैंने अमेरिका को एक्सपीरियंस किया है। इस बार मुझे इधर अनफॉर्चुनेटली जो हालात थे मुल्क के, रहना पड़ा। मगर जो एक चीज़ मैंने नोटिस की वो कि 90s में भी मसले थे, मुशर्रफ साहब ने टेक ओवर किया, मगर ऐसे हमारी जो ओवरसीज पाकिस्तानी कम्युनिटी है ऐसे ऑर्गेनाइज नहीं हुई जैसे आज हुई है। फिर जब मैं आया 2010s में, उसामा हुआ था, जंग लगी हुई थी, ड्रोन अटैक्स हो रहे थे, गदर मचा हुआ था पाकिस्तान में। इनफैक्ट मैं हार्वर्ड में था जब जिस दिन उसामा पे इन्होंने हमला किया अमरीकियों ने, और गदर मच गया पाकिस्तान में, बंद हो गया था पाकिस्तान, आपको याद होगा। मगर फिर भी, और लोगों की को गुस्सा था, बड़ा अफसोस था, पाकिस्तान की नाक कटी थी। पाकिस्तान को एक हाथ से अमरीकी इत्तेहादी कह रहे थे कि तुम इत्तेहादी हो, दूसरी तरफ पाकिस्तान की सरजमीन पे ये हमला किया पाकिस्तान को बताए बगैर। मगर फिर भी पाकिस्तानीज ने ऐसे ऑर्गेनाइज नहीं हुए। ये जो हुआ है इस बार, जो हुआ है, ऐसी क्या बात है کہ عمران خان کا تختہ جو پلٹا گیا ہے یہ لوگ آج کھڑے ہو گئے ہیں. مشرف نے جب نواز شریف کا تختہ پلٹا میں ادھر تھا, کوئی نہیں کھڑا ہوا. امریکیوں نے جب اسامہ کا تختہ پلٹا میں ادھر تھا, کوئی نہیں کھڑا ہوا. اس بار لوگ کھڑے ہو گئے ہیں اور روز تقریباً آپ بلیو نہیں کریں گے, روز کبھی وہ ٹیکسس سے, کبھی وہ ورجینیا سے, کبھی وہ شکاگو سے, اور جیسے آج انڈیانا سے بلاوے آتے ہیں کہ آؤ بولو. کچھ لوگ چھوٹی چھوٹی محفلیں کر رہے ہیں, کچھ لوگ ایسی بڑی کانگریس میں بریفنگز کر رہے ہیں, کوئی لیٹر لکھ رہا ہے, کوئی ریزولوشن کروا رہا ہے, کوئی اسپیچ کر رہا ہے, کوئی ڈور ٹو ڈور کیمپیننگ کر رہا ہے. اور یہ سب عکاسی کرتا ہے ایک آؤٹ آف ٹچ ملٹری رجیم کی, کیونکہ یہ وہی کر رہے ہیں جو یہ دہائیوں سے کرتے آ رہے ہیں. بیک ڈور ڈپلومسی. پچھلے ہفتے جنرل صاحب برطانیہ گئے, ادھر کیا ہوا, ادھر کیا ڈیل کٹ ہوئی, ادھر کس سے ملے, بس وہ دکھایا کہ سلوٹ مارا, آنر گارڈ لیا اور ایک جگہ کا جائزہ لیا اور دیٹس اٹ. مگر یہ شفافیت سے کام نہیں کر رہے, یہ وہی کر رہے ہیں جو یہ دہائیوں سے کر رہے ہیں. مطلب کہ پچھواڑے سے بیک ڈور ڈپلومسی کر کے, پہلے برطانیہ سے بات کر کے پھر آپ سے مطلب امریکہ سے بات کر رہے ہیں اور اپنی ڈیلز جو بھی ہیں کر رہے ہیں. ہم فرنٹ ڈور ڈپلومسی کر رہے ہیں. یہ جو ہم کر رہے ہیں یہ فرنٹ ڈور ہے. ہم آگے جو سامنے والا دروازہ ہے جدھر نام لکھا ہوا ہے ادھر دستک دیتے ہیں, پیچھے والی کھڑکی سے پچھواڑے سے نہیں گھستے اندر. اور وہ اس لیے کیونکہ یہ ادھر الاؤڈ ہے, ادھر الاؤڈ ہے آپ کو اپنے لیجسلیٹر کو, اپنے لوکل کانگریس مین کو, اپنے لوکل میئر کو, اپنے لوکل سینیٹر کو انگیج کرنا. اور یہ جو انگیجمنٹ ہے یہ لمبی جائے گی. آپ نے نوٹس کیا یا نہیں کیا, ایک جو تھا لوکل سینیٹر تھا, اس نے کہا کہ میں اگلے سال انشاءاللہ آپ کے ووٹ سے میں کانگریس, امریکی کانگریس جو اسٹیٹ نہیں ہے, ریاستی نہیں ہے بلکہ واشنگٹن میں, کہتا میں ادھر جا کے آپ کے لیے لڑائی کروں گا. تو پاکستانی جو ہیں, اور اس کی پھر جتنی بھی 2-3 سال کی ٹرم ہوگی, تو پاکستانی جو ہیں, اگر وہ جو شخص ہے, وہ جو افریقن امریکن کانگریس مین تھا, راب آئی تھنک اس کا نام تھا, بھول گیا ہوں, وہ اگر انگیج ہوتا ہے تو وہ پاکستانی کا ایک ایمبیسڈر بنے گا جو اگلے سال واشنگٹن جائے گا. تو یہ پاکستانی ڈیاسپورا نے بڑا لمبا ہاتھ کر دیا ہے, یہ بڑا لمبا ہاتھ ہے. اور اس ہاتھ کا ایک ہی جو سلوشن ہے جو دوسری سائڈ کے لیے ہے وہ یہ ہے کہ آپ بندے بن جائیں, آپ بھی فرنٹ ڈور ڈپلومسی کریں, آپ بھی پچھواڑے سے بات کرنا بند کریں, آپ بھی بیک ڈور ڈیلنگز بند کریں, اور آپ ہمیں انگیج کریں. آپ کو پتا ہے ہم کدھر ہیں, آپ کو پتا ہے آپ کے ایمبیسڈر ہمارے فون نہیں اٹھاتے, آپ کے اٹیشیز ہمارے فون نہیں اٹھاتے, آپ کے کاؤنسلرز ہمارے فون نہیں اٹھاتے, کیونکہ وہ جب بھی کچھ کرتے ہیں, کہیں جاتے ہیں, ان کو لوگ گالیاں دیتے ہیں, ان کو لوگ بو کرتے ہیں, ان کو لوگ آؤسٹ کرتے ہیں. تو پاکستان کیا یہ صرف فوج کا مسئلہ اس وقت نہیں رہا. اب پاکستان کے ادھر جو کاؤنسلیٹس ہیں, نیو یارک میں کاؤنسلیٹ ہے, ٹیکسس میں کاؤنسلیٹ ہے, شکاگو میں کاؤنسلیٹ ہے, لاس اینجلس میں کاؤنسلیٹ ہے, اور ایمبیسی اسلام آباد میں ہے. یہ لوگ اپنی کمیونٹی سے بات نہیں کر سک رہے, اور اس سے کاؤنسلرز جو ہیں جن کا کام ہے کمیونٹیز کے ساتھ اپنا روزے کھولنا, افطار پارٹیز کرنا, پاکستان ڈے سیلیبریٹ کرنا, جو بھی ہے, عید سیلیبریٹ کرنا, یہ اب انہوں نے ختم کر دیا ہے. جسٹ امیجن. تو ڈائسپورا ایکٹیو ہو گیا ہے, ایمبیسیز ختم ہو گئی ہیں, کاؤنسلرز ختم ہو گئی ہیں, فوجی اپنا کام کرے جا رہے ہیں اگر ان کو بھی زیادہ ٹریکشن نہیں مل رہی. بٹ ہمارے لیے جو لیسن ہے بڑا سمپل ہے, بڑا اہم ہے, اور بڑا پلین ہے. دس از اے ویری گڈ چانس for the military-led regime to mend its ways and engage the leaders of the Pakistani diaspora. کیونکہ یہ اگر چلتا رہا unfortunately تو یہ مہنگا انہی کو پڑے گا. ہم تو ادھر رہ رہے ہیں, ہمیں کچھ نہیں فرق پڑنا, ہماری جو ہے سیفٹی بس ایک مسئلہ ہے, پر اس کے علاوہ ہم رہ رہے ہیں جو جیسے بھی روزی روٹی چل رہی ہے. بٹ یہ پاکستان کی بنیاد اس سے کھوکھلی ہوگی, بیکاز ان اے وے ہم اگر یہ کرتے رہے, اس کی ایک پوائنٹ آف نو ریٹرن ہوگا اس کا, اور اس کا جو پوائنٹ آف نو ریٹرن ہوگا انفارچونیٹلی وہ ایسا وقت آئے گا کہ ہم سب پاکستان کی بنیادوں میں پانی ڈالنے لگ جائیں گے, اور یہ نہیں ہونا چاہیے. دس شوڈ بی اسٹاپڈ. یہ ایک اچھا چانس ہے کہ جو ملٹری لیڈ ریجیم ہے, جو اس کی ایمبیسڈر ہیں, اس کے کونسلیٹ ہیں, اس کے اٹیشیز ہیں, وہ آؤٹ ریچ کریں, بات کریں, لوگوں کو انگیج کریں, اور سچی بات کریں, اور سچی پالیسیز اختیار کریں, اور وہ پھر پالیسیز ایگزیکیوٹ کریں ادھر جا کے. تو یہ ایک مسنگ چیز ہے پاکستان کے فارن آفس میں، پاکستان کی فوج میں، کیونکہ ہم اسٹرانگ ہوتے جا رہے ہیں اور یہ ڈیسپریٹ ہوتے جا رہے ہیں. اس پہ میں آپ کو چھوڑتا ہوں. اپنا خیال رکھیں، شیئر کریں، لائک کریں، سبسکرائب کریں، کامنٹ کریں، اینڈ آئی ول ٹاک ٹو یو آل